We're in Austin, Texas, where we're finishing up a beautiful and sunny 70-degree day. While tonight, we'll be inside at the Lee and Joe Jamail Swim Center. I'm Kyle Sockwell, and we're just moments away from beginning the final night of the 2021 Big 12 Diving Championships and the final night of the Big 12 Swimming and Diving Championships. Once again, swimming and diving, while not competing together this year, still scored together. And joining me for tonight's coverage is Natalie Kalibat, USC alum and Pac-12 champion. Natalie, we've seen these divers compete in both the men's and women's 3-meter and 1-meter, but tonight we'll see the platform. Give us a quick preview of what's to come.
That's right, Kyle. And Texas's Jordan Wendell is coming off of his third 3-meter win, and he could make history on the men's platform, becoming the first man to win 4 consecutive titles on the platform. No man has ever done that in conference history. That would total 8 conference championships. Now, it is an Olympic year. Jordan is absolutely an Olympic hopeful, and his coach, Matt Scoggin, said he's working towards that goal every single day.
Now, before we get to the men's event, we do have the women's platform final where Jordan Skilken is looking to defend her championship from last year, but she has her teammate Paula Pineda to fend off.
That's right. Jordan Skilken is seeded third heading into the finals. And when I talked to Coach Matt Scoggin earlier after prelims, he said Skilken's springboard is better than ever. And her platform has taken a hit from quarantine and the university shutting down. So she is trying to build herself back up on the platform. She should be working on improving those dives. But her teammate, Paula Pineda, who's seeded first, is coming off of her first Big 12 championship title on the women's 1-meter last night. Platform is her best event, so her teammate Jordan Skilken will be looking to defend her title, but Pineda is ready to rock and roll tonight.
Speaking of the women's platform final, we're going to take a look at the start list here. We have 2 Cyclones, 1 Mountaineer, 2 Horned Frogs, and 3 Longhorns. So there is Skilken, your defending champion from last year, and top qualifier from Texas, Paula Pineda. We're going to head over to the diving well, where we're ready to get underway with the women's platform final. We're taking a look at Michelle Schlossmacher-Smith from Iowa State, getting ready for her first round dive and going to kick off this final women's event, the Big 12 Diving Championships.
Kyle, you'll notice there are 3 levels of the platform. You have the 5-meter, the 7.5-meter, and the 10-meter. Not every diver will go off the 10-meter. They have a choice, but in the Olympics, the 10-meter is the only event you will compete off of. And Schlossmacher-Smith decides to start her platform event off the 5-meter with an inward 1.5 somersault in the pike position. Schlossmacher-Smith is very tall. She has very long and lean lines. And you'll notice on the platform event, we're going to talk about that entry. You're going to hear that rip noise when the diver tries to make a flat palm on the surface of the water. You'll almost hear a pop when they enter the water.
So there was Jocelyn Buss of Iowa State.
Buss, the freshman from Ames, Iowa. She was not in the springboard final events, but platform seems to be her strength, and she also starts on the 5-meter platform with a forward 2.5 somersault in the tuck position.
Up next, we'll have Holly Darling of West Virginia.
She's coming off the 7.5-meter. That's the middle one, between the 5 and the 10-meter. And you'll notice she did a running start. That's called a hurdle when she tries and runs to the edge of the platform. And even though you're high up, Kyle, on platform, you still want to be aggressive. You still want to get a lot out of that cement surface, even though it's hard. The judges are looking for height when you get to the edge of that platform.
Up next, we have Connie Dayton, one of 2 Horned Frogs.
Dayton was 5th in prelims and actually had a career best score. She's getting better on the platform, and she's off the 7.5-meter. That was a very clean entry for Dayton.
Up next is Dayton's teammate, Isabella Ashdown.
She's going off the 5 meter, just short of vertical, but you still heard that rip noise. She gets her hands flat on the surface of the water, and you heard that little bit of a pop when she hit the water. The judges love that. That is music to their ears, hearing that rip noise. And even though she went a little bit short, she still had it.
So up next is Jordan Skilken. We talked about her before we started this championship final. She is your defending champion from last year.
Skilken does 4 out of the 5 dives off the 10 meter, ending with 1 on the 5 meter. And there she is on the 10 meter. Doing an inward 2.5 pike. Beautiful rip. You could see that bubble that came up right when she hit the water. And you can see her form in the air is so graceful. She gets height off the platform, gets into that tight pike, squares it out above the 3 meter and lines it up. The judges will definitely like that entry, Kyle.
Great start there for Skilken. Up next is Janie Boyle, her teammate.
That is called a full in. That's where you're doing 2 somersaults in the pike position and a full twist. So it's a lot of dive to get done, even though you're 32 feet in the air. You can see so much height off the end of that platform. And a really nice rip entry for Janie Boyle. She has just done such a tremendous job in the Big 12 championships the past few days, Kyle. She's just put on a really great show for us.
There is Paula Pineda finishing off our first round here. She's a Big 12 champion already from this event. Looking to grab a second title.
You'll see she's standing on her tippy toes. Takes a lot of balance and control, and that's exactly what the judges are looking for, that commanding presence when you're on the edge of the platform. And she's doing an inward. That's where you're standing backwards and you're flipping into the platform. So you always want to find that balance of not getting too close and not getting too far out. And she masters that, squares it up and lines it out. That was a very clean entry for Paula Pineda's first dive. She'll get 73.60 points on it.
It was Schlossmacher Smith of Iowa State starting off our second round.
Another dive on the 5 meter. She does a hurdle, forward 2.5 somersault tuck, just washes by. Now, a lot of times, Kyle, you'll see the 5 and the 7 meter. Those platforms are used as build-ups for the 10 meters. So for that dive in particular, a forward 2.5, maybe you add a flip on 10 meter and do a front 3.5.
So here's Jocelyn Buss of Iowa State.
One thing her coach Warwick says about Jocelyn Buss, she's actively making changes, and she makes them quickly and consistently, and she's been working towards a full senior level list. So it's all about the progressions for the young Jocelyn Buss of Iowa State.
Up next is Holly Darling of West Virginia. And your leader after round 1 is Paula Pineda with Skilken right behind her. Right now it's Darling.
Very nice dive for Holly Darling. Kyle, you notice she's wearing a cap. I know we see that more on the swimming side, but some divers wear a cap, personal preference. Maybe they want to keep their hair protected, or maybe they don't want their ponytail getting in the way. No rhyme or reason, but I know that brings you to the other side of the pool with swimming.
It does. I always wore a cap. My hair was typically too long to not wear one. So there's Connie Dayton from TCU with her second round dive.
She also did an inward 2.5 on the 7.5 meter platform, and she showed a lot of control. She got a lot of height off the platform, you can see right there. Piked out above the 3 meter and just short of vertical, but she still had a clean entry, and on platform, that's really what the judges are looking for, that start, getting the height, being aggressive, and also that entry of the dive.
So here's Isabella Ashdown.
Doing the first handstand of the competition. You can choose whatever way you would like to get up, a split leg, coming up in a tuck, coming up in a pike. But the judges are looking for control, and they start judging you as soon as your feet leave the platform. And you must hold the arm stand for 3 full seconds, which is exactly what Isabella Ashdown just did. I mean, just gymnastic-like movements. A lot of times, former gymnasts will choose doing an arm stand. These women do 5 dives, and they don't have to do an arm stand, but they can choose to do one.
Here is Jordan Skilkin.
Beautiful. From start to finish, showing that balance and that control. She did a reverse 2.5. That's where she's standing forwards on the edge of the platform, and she flips into the platform. And like I said, Kyle, you want to see that height, and she shows the height on that dive. This will be a key dive for Skilkin as she's battling it out with her teammate Paula Pineda and Janie Boyle as well.
So Pineda was in first after round 1, with Skilkin in second and Boyle in third. Not a ton of space between the 3. Again, we have 5 rounds here, and here's Janie Boyle with her second round dive.
Also a back arm stand dive. Showed control at the top. Kyle, the arm stands, there is so much shoulder strength that goes into them, and core strength. You can see she puts her shoulders over her hands, locks it up, shows the judges she can hold it for over 3 seconds and get some good momentum off the platform into that twist to rip the entry.
Up next is Paula Pineda of Texas. Once again, she was your leader after round 1.
Very nice dive. You heard that pop noise. It almost sounds like a gun going off. She ripped that dive on the entry. She also did a reverse 2.5, and Pineda is just not afraid to jump. It doesn't matter if she's on 1 meter, if she's on 3 meter, if she's on 10 meter. She is consistent with her jump and her aggression on the takeoff of all of her dives.
We have 3 more rounds to go in this women's platform championship final. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll be back with more from Austin, Texas. We're back in Austin, Texas, where we have the women's platform final underway. Janie Boyle is in the lead right now with 131 points. Just behind her, about 3 points back, is Paula Pineda and Jordan Skilkin running third. We're getting ready to start round 3 here, the women's platform final.
Kyle, the top 3 only separated by 7.8 points. This is an exciting competition to be a part of.
Exciting, no doubt. And there is Michelle Schlossmacher-Smith of Iowa State.
Doing a back 1.5 somersault in the pike position. Half her foot is off of the platform to get that balance off the start. Very beautiful dive. She showed control from start to finish. A lot of times the 1 meter and the 5 meter platform can be compared in terms of a lot of the divers will do similar dives that they do on 1 meter that they will do on 5 meter. And she really put that dive away.
So with the 5 and the 1 meter being compared, what would the 3 meter be compared to?
The 7.5 meter. So a lot of times you'll see some of the divers will compete the same dives that they compete on the 7.5. They have it on the 3 meter springboard. And of course there's, different elements to focus on in terms of when you're actually doing the dive. But yes, they are very comparable. Same dive, back 1.5 somersault pike. She just slightly over-rotated on the entry. Look at that balance on her tippy toes. Nice tight pike. Just kicks up a little too high. Causes her to wash by on that entry.
Up next, we have Holly Darling of West Virginia.
Love that neon cap, you know, it just really brings your attention in, right, Kyle?
It definitely does.
It matches the WV on her swimsuit, and she'll be doing a reverse 1.5 somersault tuck on the 5 meter. She'll be flipping into the platform, setting up her toes to get that balance on the start. The reverse category on platform is hard to do because it is a flat and a hard surface. It's not like the springboard where you get momentum off the edge. And you can see she was moving her arms a little bit at the start to try and get the feel and the momentum and her balance before she went into that tuck. Very nice entry, very clean. The judges will definitely reward her with how she went in the water on that dive with 6.5 and 6s.
There's Connie Dayton of TCU getting ready for her 3rd round dive.
She's doing the same dive, a reverse 1.5. Very nice dive, very clean entry. Holly Darling of West Virginia just did that dive before her, so the judges can compare and contrast the two divers. Dayton gets slightly higher scores on that dive, and receiving a 7 on that dive, it's a lower degree of difficulty dive. That's a very good score for that reverse 1.5 on the 5 meter springboard. So she'll get almost 50 points on that dive.
So there is Isabella Ashdown of TCU.
Doing a back 2.5 somersault tuck. Just short of vertical, Kyle. You could see on the start she was aggressive. She got into that tight tuck, but she just came out a little bit early. Just so anxious because she started spinning so fast. A tight tuck, her head's out just a little bit, and just drops those legs short.
So up next, we will have Jordan Skilkin on the 10 meter. And Natalie, speaking of the 10 meter, these athletes go through countless reps up there, but at the end of the day, it's still 10 meters high. Are there still nerves when you're up that high? Or is it strictly business for these athletes?
They may look strict business, but there are definitely nerves. And there is definitely a fear element, especially when you're on the 10 meter platform. And it's all about just training that muscle memory and trying to put fear aside, even though it's still there and it will never go away. Not afraid to jump, as I've said before, especially on her backs and her reverses. She gets a lot of height off of the platform, which allows her to get into that tight pike, see her spots, and line it up. A little bit heavier of an entry. She didn't quite fully rip it the way you can see Skilkin do it. But a very nice dive. Well done. She received 6.5s. So not a bad dive for her at all.
So there is Janie Boyle. Again, she was your leader after the last round as she gets ready for her 3rd round dive.
Kyle, if Boyle wins, Texas will have 4 conference champions on its roster. Skilkin, O'Neill, Pineda, Boyle. I mean, just keep adding on, right?
Janie Boyle. The theme of this championships has been just Texas's depth on display. We're definitely witnessing The same thing here in the diving well as we did in the pool. Texas so strong, both the women's and men's events.
Just beautiful. Wow. She just stretches her legs and toes on that entry. That was a beautiful rip. A very well done reverse 2.5. Look at that height, just jumps so high off the platform, pikes it out, lines it up, shows control, flexibility, and strength. You can see at this angle, she stays straight with the platform. That was a fantastic dive by Janie Boyle. She gets 68.60 points. That'll keep her above Jordan Skilkin, so she is our current leader, but her teammate Paula Pineda still has to go.
There is Paula Pineda, the highest degree of difficulty dive here in round 3.
This is such a hard dive, a back 3.5 on the 10-meter platform. And when I talked to Matt Scoggin after her preliminary event, he said she did this dive for 9s earlier this morning in warm-ups. The girl has been exhausted just doing these dives, the impact of the 10-meter platform. And he said she's just been going and going and going and doing these dives so well, so she may be a bit tired.
She has 2 more rounds here to go in this women's platform final. We'll be back with round 4 in Austin, Texas, right after this. We are back in Austin, Texas, where Janie Boyle is your leader through 3 rounds. We're going to take a look, actually, at her 3rd round dive, which opened up a little bit of space between her and her 2 teammates in Skilkin and Pineda.
We're going to go all the way up to the 10-meter platform. She makes it look easy, that reverse 2.5. Look how much height she gets off of the platform. That just does not give, and she just rips that entry clean. She receives 8.5s and 8s on this dive, a total of 68.60 points.
So again, Boyle in first with Skilkin and Pineda, her Longhorn teammates, behind her in 2nd and 3rd. There's Michelle Schlossmacher-Smith getting ready for her 4th round dive.
Schlossmacher-Smith is in 5th after qualifying 8th in the prelims. So she's moved up. Doing a reverse 1.5 somersault in the tuck position on the 5-meter. It's a lower degree of difficulty dive, but she does it well. Showing control, showing power and aggression on the takeoff of that dive, which is what the judges are looking for. And of course, a nice entry on the bottom.
Up next, we have Jocelyn Buss, her teammate, another Cyclone.
Jocelyn Buss, 5-meter, 303621.
She'll also be doing a reverse 1.5 off the 5-meter platform. Just short of vertical on her takeoff. She didn't quite get her arms all the way through off the start, which allowed her legs to just drop before she hit the water. You can see she just lets her legs drop short of vertical, but in diving, just have a short memory. Move on to the next one.
So there's Holly Darling of West Virginia getting ready for her 4th round dive. Again, 5 rounds of diving here in this women's platform final.
Holly's coach, Carla Helder, told me she's been working on Holly's posture, shoulders, hips, and ankles in line, and this is huge, especially on the platform and with the dive she's going to do, her arm stand. Oof. Kyle, she just didn't get enough power on the start. She didn't quite get to hold the arm stand. She actually fell back down on the platform. That's called balking, and the judges will take points off because she didn't get to the top and show that control right off the bat. But she did do the dive very well, so those points will be deducted from her total score.
We saw Jordan Windle balk yesterday and then come right back with an incredible dive. Darling doing the same thing.
Exactly.
Up next, we have Connie Dayton of TCU.
She's on the 5 meter, doing a back 1.5 in the pike position. Dayton, not only a fantastic diver, but an incredible student. She has a 4.0. Incredible. Shows some nice lines off the platform. Lines it up just past vertical on that dive. But goes in clean.
Up next, we'll have her teammate in Isabella Ashdown.
She'll be doing a back twister off the 5 meter platform. Very nicely executed dive. It's a lower degree of difficulty dive off the 5 meter, but she shows control and she shows poise in the air and the twist. You can see she gets into a nice twist and has a good entry. Very pretty lines in the air as well.
So up next, we do have Jordan Skilkin. She is in second behind teammate Janie Boyle, who we'll see after her. Janie Boyle, a great dive in round 3. So Jordan Skilkin, a little bit of work to do here in round 4. Trying to track down her teammate in Janie Boyle.
That's right. It's all about the hunt, and she's going to look to perform this arm stand off the 10 meter very well. Very nice entry, a very pretty entry, very little splash going into the water. And Kyle, you'll notice a lot of these divers, when they do the arm stands, they kick up off the platform a little bit differently. You could see she had a split leg. She has a gymnastics background, and you can see that's visible in this dive in particular with how she goes up, shows control on the start. Almost looks like she's touching the ceiling. She's so high up. It has a very pretty entry, very clean going into the water.
So up next, we have Janie Boyle. Once again, she was your leader through 3 rounds.
She actually increased her degree of difficulty on this dive. Last year, she did it in the tuck position. Very nicely done. Very nicely done. Especially with increasing the degree of difficulty on that dive. That is very challenging to do, to go from tuck to pike. You can see she gets the height off the platform, finds the water, and also finds that hole to line up and have a clean entry in the bottom of that dive.
There's Paula Pineda. She was 3rd after the last round. Not too far behind her teammate in Skilkin, but Boyle did open up a little bit of a lead over her with a great 3rd round dive.
This is one of the higher degree of difficulty dives in the contest, a back 2.5 with 1.5 twists off the 10 meter. Wow, that was a picture-perfect entry. My goodness, she made very little splash going into the water. You heard that rip pop noise. Kyle, it's amazing with what all these athletes have been through, and to see dives executed like that. The judges loved it. She got 8.5s and 9s. She made up for that last one, getting 83.20 points on this dive. That will be huge for Paula Pineda.
So a great dive there in round 4 for Paula Pineda. We have one more round here in the women's platform final. We're going to go to a quick break, and we'll be back with more after this. We are back with a shot of Town Lake in downtown right there. We have one more round here in the women's platform final from Austin, Texas. Now, Janie Boyle opened up a big lead in round 3, but closing in on her right now is Paula Pineda with a huge round 4 dive.
Kyle, the race is on. Are you kidding? Look at that small point difference between Janie Boyle and Paula Pineda, just 0.8. Oh my goodness.
One more round here in this women's platform final. Again, we'll have the men's version of this platform final just a little bit later tonight. And there is Michelle Schlossmacher-Smith of Iowa State.
She needs 41.7 points for a career high. That may do it, Kyle. She may get that career high on that back twister. Very nice entry on that dive. Shows control from the start, a nice tight twist, squares it out, and she's just in line with the platform, and she'll receive 48.75 points. So she got a career high on that dive.
Saw a lot of meet records broken on the swimming side of things, and as you mentioned, Natalie, just so impressive to watch these athletes do better than they ever have before, even with the circumstances. So there's Jocelyn Buss of Iowa State, her last dive of this championship final.
Absolutely, the freshman. Prelims were her first ever college platform competition. She will do that same dive off the 5 meter, a very nice way to end her platform competition here at Big 12s. On her tippy toes, squeezing that core on the start, stays in line, gets in vertical. That was a solid finish.
Up next, we have Holly Darling of West Virginia.
Holly Darling, 7 meter,
Holly just did the same dive that Jocelyn did, but on the 7 meters. So you can see how much control and grace and strength it takes to bring the same dive up. And you still want to be aggressive on the start on platform. It doesn't matter how high you are, but she shows so much grace and strength doing that same dive just a little bit higher. She receives 6.5s and 7s on that dive, 46.80 points.
There's Connie Dayton of TCU. And two Horned Frogs in this final. Isabella Ashdown, her teammate, will go up after her. Right now it is Dayton.
She doesn't like to stand there long. She gets to the end, she sets up, and she goes. Dayton trying to beat her career best of a 236.30. She'll need about 38 points to get that, and she just always looks so relaxed. The London, England native. She got 7s on that dive. That's 53.75 points. So that'll be a career best on the platform for Connie Dayton.
So up next is Isabella Ashdown, her teammate. She was just about 10 points back from Dayton after round 4, so she'll need a good one here if she wants to close that gap after a great dive from Connie Dayton.
A lower degree of difficulty dive, an inward 1.5 pike on the 5-meter platform. This is her first meet on platform for TCU this year. So you know when you're competing this event for the first time this year, this season, you know there's going to be a little bit of nerves, so she channels that well.
So up next, we have one of 3 Longhorns again. This is Jordan Skilkin. She's in 3rd going into this final round.
This is Skilkin's only dive. For her back twister off the 10-meter platform, so a back 2.5 with 1.5 twists in the pike position. One of her best scoring dives right here. Just a little bit shy of vertical, Kyle, on the entry. Skilkin has been pushing. She's been working so hard in practice, and she just goes a little bit short. You can see right there, her legs just slightly hit the water, but a beautiful dive in the air, like an acrobat, very rhythmic, a lot of poise. She'll receive 5 and 4.5 on that dive, so that is a lower score than she's used to getting on that dive.
So there is Janie Boyle. Once again, she was in the lead through 4 rounds, but her teammate in Paula Pineda tracked her down with a great 4th round dive. So it's really going to come down to this 5th round between these 2 teammates in Boyle and Pineda.
So exciting. Boyle only needs 23.45 points for the lead. Oh my goodness. Wow. That was beautiful. A lot of times divers will end the meet with their best dive, and she just executes this with so much poise. She makes it look effortless in the air. Her pike is so beautiful and tight and lines it up, barely making a splash. Kyle, the judges love it. She receives 8.5, so a total of 71.40 points. So she will climb herself back up to that first spot.
Great dive there from Janie Boyle as we get ready for our final diver of this women's platform final in Paula Pineda. Janie Boyle's dive a 2.8 degree of difficulty with Pineda's a 3.0.
My goodness, back to back, right, Kyle? She nails that dive. Her teammate nails it before her. You know the pressure is on Pineda to do this dive to the best of her ability. She needs 72.20 points. Wow, look at that entry. My gosh, she just disappears going into the water. and she gets the 72.20 points. Paula Pineda is your winner on the women's platform. She wins her second Big 12 title, back-to-back. She wins by 8.8 points. That's it, Kyle.
Another title for Pineda, and it came down to the final round. What a way to start this final day here in Austin, Texas. Texas goes 1, 2, 3 there in the women's platform. Pineda, Boyle, and Skilkin, respectively.
What an accomplishment, Kyle. It's so exciting to see. She's been so close leading up to this championship of winning, and she finally gets it done. And she gets it done back-to-back days. It's amazing.
Back-to-back titles. And speaking of back-to-back-to-back titles, we'll see Jordan Windle a bit later trying to complete the sweep. We're going to take a look here at one of Pineda's dives that helped her close the gap in just a second. Natalie, I mean, that fourth round dive, I believe it was, or third round, I mean, she had a 20-point gap that she had to overcome, and she almost did it just with one dive.
It just goes to show you her concentration before she does that dive, just not focused on her teammate before her, but just focused on herself. And you can see that concentration here as well. Just disappears in the water. It's just incredible on this back twister. One of her highest scoring dives of the entire contest. What an accomplishment for Paula Pineda, the junior from Veracruz, Mexico.
So another title for Paula Pineda. We're going to go to a quick break. Then after this, we'll hear from your champion, Paula Pineda, right after this. We are back in Austin, Texas at the Lee and Joe Jamail Swim Center, where we just finished up the women's platform final, where Paula Pineda took home another Big 12 championship. And we're actually joined by Paula Pineda right now. Paula, back-to-back nights, Big 12 titles. How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling so happy. I've been training really hard for this, and I can't wait for to see how I do at NCs.
Paula, such a close race. What was going through your mind before that final dive that you completed?
I think I was just thinking of my coach's corrections. I try to always do that, focus on what he's telling me and what he told me when I was talking to him. And I try to stay relaxed and not think about other things.
Paula, Matt Scoggin told me you had no water for 6 days in your apartment during that ice storm. How were you able to overcome that adversity and win 2 Big 12 conference titles?
Oh, man, that was really hard. But I think it was hard for everyone, and everyone was very supportive of each other. My teammates were like, if you need anything, like, please let us know. Athletics was really supportive of everyone, and I think that's what, like, really got us through that.
You're such a talented diver, and it is an Olympic year. Do you have plans to compete in the Mexican Olympic trials, Paula?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I think most likely if the schedule allows for me to go, I would like to compete, yes.
Awesome. Congratulations, and thanks for joining us. We look forward to watching you more in the future.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. So don't go anywhere. We still have more to go here from Austin, Texas. As we take a look at Jordan Windle there. He's looking to complete the sweep in all 3 events here. We'll be back at the men's final later on.